Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews. I'm your host, Matt Spease, and today we're looking at Dracula, Prince of Darkness, released in 1966. Dracula, Prince of Darkness stars Christopher Lee, Barbara Shelley, Suzan Farmer, Francis Matthews, Andrew Keir, and Bud Tidwell. This film was shot back-to-back with Rasputin, the Mad Monk. Dracula, Prince of Darkness was directed by Terence Fisher. Meanwhile, Rasputin, the Mad Monk was directed by Don Sharp. They used basically the same sets for both films and a lot of the same cast with Christopher Lee, Barbara Shelley, Suzan Farmer, and Francis Matthews. Now, the first of these films that I saw was Rasputin, the Mad Monk. And Barbara Shelley plays a character named Sonia, and Suzan Farmer plays a character named Vanessa in that film. And of course, Christopher Lee plays Rasputin. And Barbara Shelley has this iconic, great sequence with Christopher Lee in which he makes her his obedient helper in his plans with the Tsarina in the film. It was such a great sequence, and I was just wanting to see the whole film, the rest of the film. I was wanting to see him target Suzanne Farmer's character of Vanessa, and he never did. I was like, that sucks. So, when I saw Dracula, Prince of Darkness, I was kind of disappointed that Barbara Shelley's moment with Dracula, where she's mesmerized by his hypnotic charms and turned into a vampire. But whereas Suzan Farmer was not targeted by Rasputin, thankfully, in this film, Suzan Farmer was. And her character is Diana, and her scene is pretty close to being as good of a scene as what Barbara Shelley's was in Rasputin the Mad Monk. I mean, it is a nice sequence. It is well put together, well shot. Terence Fisher always did a great job on shooting any of his films that he did for either Hammer Productions or Amicus Films. So, the funny thing is, Dracula in this, Christopher Lee, does not speak one line of dialogue in this. Whereas in the first movie, Horror of Dracula, he, spoke quite a bit. He had a lot of lines in that movie. Now, the second movie from Hammer Films in the Dracula series was Brides of Dracula, and it didn't even feature the Count Dracula character. It had a young baron character who's the main vampire of the story. But it still had Peter Cushing carrying over as Van Helsing from that film. This one, you get the return of Dracula, but this one does not have Peter Cushing, unfortunately. But he's not really missed too much because Andrew Keir's Father Sandor is a great character, and Andrew Keir does a great job playing this character. Basically, when they shot these films back to back, I mean, they gave fans like me, double of what we wanted. You know, we got the great scene with Barbara Shelley and Rasputin, and then we got the great scene with Suzan Farmer and Dracula, Prince of Darkness. So can't really complain too much, huh? But the reason is debated on whether, whether or not it was Christopher Lee's choice to not speak as Dracula. He had done interviews where he said, that he looked at the script and he did not like the lines, and he, said to the producers, I'm not speaking these lines. No, I won't speak any lines, but then, of course, Jimmy Sangster, the writer on the story, tells a different story. He says that he did not think that vampires should chat with anybody. They shouldn't speak. So he didn't write any dialogue for Dracula in the script. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I've never really looked up the original script for Dracula, Prince of Darkness, if it was available where you could check it out. But it would be interesting to see whether or not Christopher Lee was telling the truth, or whether Jimmy Sangster was telling the truth on that one. But the overall film, I mean, this is just a great Dracula film. I mean, James Bernard, who did the score for the previous film, or the previous two films, Horror of Dracula and Brides of Dracula, does another amazing score in this film. His music is just, and set design, I mean, it's remarkable, and it's great, so great that they used it for two films. They used the same sets for Rasputin, But I just think that the intro to this film was so good when you first meet Barbara Shelley and her husband, Bud Tingewell, playing Alan, her husband. She's playing a character named Helen, and they come to Dracula's castle to stay there. Dracula is dead at this point, but one of his disciples is living in the castle, and he ends up taking Alan, knocking him in the head and hanging him upside down above the ashes of Dracula, and slices his throat. And the blood dripping onto Dracula's ashes just causes him to be reborn. And then, of course, Barbara Shelley, her character of Helen, goes looking for Alan, of course, and comes across Dracula, and he puts her under his spell hypnotically, and then bites her, turning her into his vampire servant. And then you are introduced to Suzan Farmer's Diana and Francis Matthews' Charles. And, of course, they get a little bit of help from Andrew Keir's character. He's Father Sandor. He's basically our surrogate Van Helsing in this film, and he works really well. I mean, Andrew Keir was a great actor, and whenever he performed a character, he just put a lot of gravitas into his dialogue and scenes and everything, and he's really good in this film. And I think he's equally as good as Peter Cushing was as Van Helsing. It's a shame that they never brought Andrew Keir back as Father Sandor in any of the later films and stuff. Although I believe he, don't quote me on this, but I do believe Andrew Keir did return to play a different role in one of the later Dracula movies from Hammer Productions. But it's a different character, so it's not the same. So, But yeah, Terence Fisher, he directs this thing with such mood. I mean, the way he uses the lighting, the way he uses the sets, the cinematography in this film is just so well done. Makes the film suspenseful whenever it needs to be. It makes the film creepy when it needs to be. I mean, and I don't know. I think Christopher Lee not speaking as Dracula is highly effective in this film. So, but I love Dracula, Prince of Darkness. I think this is the epitome of the highest that the Hammer Productions ever got with Dracula. I mean, I liked Horror of Dracula. It was a good film. But I think Prince of Darkness just, and don't get me on Brides of Dracula. It was just, without Dracula, a movie called Brides of Dracula, without Dracula, no, don't do that. So, I mean, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, I think every film after this, I mean, they were fine. They were good. There's none of them were really horrible after this film, with the exception of the very last one, The Satanic Rites of Dracula. That was kind of just too off the wall, too crazy. But, none of them after Dracula, Prince of Darkness ever come to that high echelon. So I'm going to have to say that my review for Dracula, Prince of Darkness, is a 9.0 out of 10. This film is great. If you like vampire films, traditional vampire films with vampiric powers and all the abilities that a vampire is supposed to have, you will love this film. Christopher Lee's performance as Dracula, without even speaking a line of dialogue, is epic. And Barbara Shelley, Suzan Farmer, these two beautiful actresses, are great in their roles, playing their characters. And then you have a pretty cool hero with Francis Matthews as Charles, and of course Andrew Keir as Father Sandor. I mean, it is a very good film with a great score, like I said, from James Bernard, and excellent direction from Terence Fisher, as usual. So, if you agree with my review and liked anything that I've said in this review, please comment down below and I will respond in kind. And I'd appreciate it, if you like, share, and subscribe, because it really does help the channel out quite a bit. So I hope you have enjoyed my review of Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and we will see you next time.